Hello, everyone. It is the Nextlander podcast once again. I am your host for this week, Brad Shoemaker, joined as always by Alex Navarro.
So, if you're in the host seat, does that mean I'm in your seat?
Oh, I don't know. What is my seat?
The one that is sandwiched between a Star Wars and a Sin City poster?
Gotta put me on blast right here at the top of the podcast.
Hell yeah.
We don't talk about the Revenge of the Sith poster, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Unless Jeff Bakalar is here. Hello, Jeff Bakalar. Do you want to talk about Revenge of the Sith?
There's nothing I'd like to do less.
What about Attack of the Clones?
No, I'm not an anti-Star Wars person. I'm just an uninterested Star Wars person.
Wait, really? Like the whole thing? The whole franchise, kid and caboodle?
I find it deeply uninteresting.
Wow.
I don't. I went
they're out there. There's dozens of them.
I went to Galaxy's Edge a year ago in Disney World, and I thought that was neat. And I sort of wanted to build my own droid, but that was as much as like as the Lucas world was able to do to me, where I had for a moment the desire to build a droid, and that was it. It was fleeting.
The marketing worked. Now, okay, don't take this the wrong way, but if you had asked me, I would have pegged you as one of those, like, I saw it in 1977 in the theaters and it changed my life. Like, I grew up living Star Wars kind of people.
Well, I wasn't alive in 77, but thank you for thinking I was.
You're just slightly older than me, right? Like, you're like a year older than me, right?
Me? No, yeah. I think you're older than me.
Wait, is that real?
Am I?
Okay.
I'm 82. I'm March 82.
Oh my God, you are. Yeah, because I turned 43 in November.
Okay, I'm just going to cut this out of the podcast.
It's only a couple months.
All right.
This is going to go from the show.
I'm the baby.
Yeah.
I'm the baby.
I keep forgetting because you read so old to me, and that's way meaner than I meant for it to sound. But that's what I mean. You know.
Hold on, Brad. Your turn. Talk about the hair.
See, that's not what I would have said. What I would have said is whenever somebody's like the boss of something, I just automatically assume they're older than me.
Okay, and that's I don't know what to say to that.
And you are the big cheese of giantbomb.com, I understand.
Depends on the day, quite honestly. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. My responsibilities have spread far and wide across the fandom verse, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah. So
you got your fingers in every pie, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm the head wiki manager there now, and I'm just making sure all the wikis are behaving and getting in line.
How are the wikis?
The wikis are fine. They don't require a lot of water. You think they would, but it's more of a sunlight thing.
Yeah. You just need a little love and attention.
Those things are prone to mold. You gotta keep some good light in there. I mean, why don't you favor us with some of the wikis under your purview?
That was a joke. None of them are.
Okay, all right.
It's more GameSpot than So our legacy friends and in that whole community, that is what I'm helping with on a day-to-day, and it's good. There's a lot of great people over there. It's been fun. Our ownership is in a good place right now, so that feels good.
Certainly better than where it was.
Well, Alex, I'm not sure the eighth circle of hell really compares with anything, but yes, you're right. Absolutely.
Yes.
Y'all got anything fun going on over there lately that you want to?
You've been Blight Clubbing it.
Yeah, I gotta say that show continues to be a delight. It is just really an impressivly reliable source of entertaining content in a way that I never really foresaw. That's always a pleasure. I'm a little biased on this one, but I really do enjoy our Voicemail Dump Truck podcast, which is basically what Bombcast Aftermath sort of evolved into after all these years. And that, it's just hearing real ass life people just doing their thing and reacting to that. It brings me great joy. I don't know what it is. It's always different. It keeps you on your toes. And it's this endless repository for like compelling content. So I really do love that show. You should go check that out.
We do our own Patreon Q&A, and that is very much my attitude toward it as well. It is just nice to hear what people have to say and interact with them directly.
Yeah, it's nice to be reminded, like, there are real people on the other side of the screen,
Certainly. Feels good.
I have a bit of a hard time keeping up with the Blightiverse these days. Like, was Daikatana, for example? I think like that was under a different name, but is that technically
they do a name for all of them, don't they?
Is that what
they
it
do
is?
They do a special name that I believe was called Grub Katana or something like that, or something like that.
RoboCop was Robo Mitch.
Daika Grubba. I think it change names halfway through.
Right?
Yeah, that's better.
You know better than I.
Plugged into the rich giant bomb fiction over here.
Exactly. And now they're doing Alone in the Dark, which they're just calling Alone in the Mitch,
But the Wii version of Alone in the Dark, right?
Correct. So the most unplayable version of that game. And, look, for me, seeing Mike Minotti squirm on a regular basis is really what it's all about. Well worth the price of admission. So that's what you're getting, and that's the arc we're in right now. And for me, that's got me personally tuning in, just because watching that guy get upset over bad video games is sort of just like lightning in a bottle, Yeah. Except there's a lot of lightning, I guess, and a lot of bottles. I
think the reason Blight Club works now with these people and would not have worked when I wanted to do it is that you have the right trio of people to suffer. Like, those are people that are fun to watch suffer, whereas I just get mad, and I don't think that would have come across very well. So I think that makes it better.
What does this say about me, though?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that previous statement, for sure. For whatever reason, when Grub is on the receiving end of it, I don't enjoy it as much from a personal point of view as I do to see Reichert and Mitch suffer.
Is there like a deep-seated loathing for the other two that you're just maybe, bringing to the surface here?
You said it, not me. I don't know if that is true.
No, I'm saying these things for you so you don't have to.
I think what you're saying is that some people have it coming.
Yeah, but Mike Minotti's a sweetheart and he's a treasure, and I love him to death. Dan's there too, but I don't know. Maybe that's what I don't know. I don't know.
You know what it is? Mike Minotti is like Kirby. When you watch Kirby suffer, you know he's going to spring back into action, and the big smile is going to be across his face, and you're just like, nothing can really hurt him. He's not absorbing any of this. He's just doing what he's got to do, and then he's just going to, traipse his way through this eventually.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is I'm still waiting on my first royalty check.
I gotta talk to our accounts payable department. Maybe that's like an accounting error.
Are you the boss of that too?
No. That's out of my purview. I just sign off on the checks. I don't write them.
Okay. There is no royalty check. I agreed to that as long as I could occasionally show up and torment people, and so far I've been able to do that.
I'll send you the link for their work suite. You can file an invoice.
The invoice, the payment, is watching Dan suffer.
Cool. Well, we got plenty of those. Hope you can cash
I've
those
got two
checks.
lined up soon.
That's how we pay people in Dan misery.
Bakalar, did you make it to PAX? I think most everybody else.
I did not. I did not make it to PAX. There is something we're working on here that I hate to be that guy, but I just can't fully talk about it just yet. Hopefully in the next maybe month or so.
No embargo busters here.
No, nothing like that. I can't be having that.
See, like I said, you've ascended to the level now where you're too important to be going to frivolous trips.
No, look, I wanted to go out there for sure. I absolutely did. I hope next year I'm able to make it also to Germany as well, because that seemed like I missed a really good time. But the thing we're working on right now had me staying at home working on this thing, but it's super exciting. It's well on its way, and we'll definitely talk about it very soon for sure.
Okay.
Very cool.
Right on. Well, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I love it.
Bigger and better things forthcoming from giantbomb.com. We love to hear it.
Indeed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we've all gathered here today to talk about video games. Perhaps you've heard of them. And
I'm not familiar.
Oh, well, hey, okay.
Teach me.
Let's just talk about Astro Bot.
Okay, let's just talk about Astro Bot, because that game's great.
I was like, do I have the chops to carry this bit forward? No, I do not.
It's barely a bit to begin with, so it's fine.
Let's talk about the video game everybody seems to be talking about.
My God.
Which is Astro Bot.
Delight.
I think there's just so much to say. I guess I have an interesting perspective just because my son finished it well before I did.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I made him also sign an embargo. Come on, got to keep everything above board, keep it in check. No. He finished it and he turned to me and goes, "Dad, do you think I'm the first kid in the world to finish Astro Bot?" And I was like, "No, but maybe."
Now, was this literally pre-embargo? I assume you were letting him play the
he
review
finished
copy?
it. He finished it like Tuesday of last week.
Yeah, the codes went out on Friday, so that's a decent turnaround. Maybe your child has got a video game reviewing career in front of him.
I wouldn't do that to him.
Yeah, no, there's no future in that, man.
He could have made embargo. He had like 2 whole days to write that review.
He did. Unfortunately, embargo day was the first day of school, so therefore he was unable to meet that.
Speaking from experience, just go review video games. It'll work out just fine. He can just walk out of school now.
Follow in Alex's footsteps.
No, don't.
I have to ask before we move on. Did you let him play it on his own profile pre-release?
No, it was mine.
Okay. That's the smart move. Oh, it does have multiple save slots, so that...
Yes, which the second I saw that, I was like, we're in the clear.
Yes.
We're good to go.
Yes, because I can't speak for Sony, but some publishers, they keep an eye out. They're like, why are more profiles playing this than we sent codes for?
What was very cool, though, like, I actually thought it was an interesting kind of thing. They, when they were showing the game off earlier in the summer, they were like, oh, you should totally bring your kid out. That would be great. And, we were away. We couldn't make it happen. But this was a game that he had his eyes on for a while. And, he played, obviously the game that came out with PS5 and was just like, oh, more of this, like sign me up.
This
game's amazing.
Yeah, it's
He's
great.
9.
He's
9.
Okay, like that's interesting to hear because like I've looked at this. It's like, is this going to be the beginning of like a platform, like a mascot platformer resurgence? Because these games have been sort of like not gone, but kind of on the back foot for a long time. So like hearing that the youth is still into this kind of thing is kind of heartwarming.
It's interesting. I think he might be in a bit of a minority where he will appreciate, like, people his age are not necessarily aware of a game like this. I don't, I think there's probably a conversation to have about that, but they're obviously obsessed with like Fortnite and Roblox. And other things in that kind of universe. I think this standalone kind of thing, like they all have played Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other game that has like penetrated through the thing. And Dylan also played Rift Apart. He's into the platformer stuff, so he gets it. He has me as a dad, so he's much more keyed into that sort of stuff. But to your point of like, does Sony have a brand new mascot? Like from my perspective, like, yeah, I think it does. I think this is their guy. But I don't think it's this. It's all, I don't think it is a similar relationship as like a Mario, right? Or like even a Crash Bandicoot, I think it could maybe get to like a Crash kind of situation for sure. But this, I mean, they're hitting every mark it needs to hit and lining up the roadmap for Astro Bot to be that guy.
Yeah. He can be that guy. I think there's maybe 2 things that are slightly getting in the way of it. One, that so much of the Astro Bot identity is like tied to hardware fetishism. Like, sure. I like Astro Bot, and I actually really like the execution of the stuff in this game, but also it's not a game where they're showing off a specific new piece of Sony technology or, a thing that is like normally associated with these Astro Bot pack-in games, but now it's basically just a celebration of the console you already bought.
Yeah, and all the IP that runs on that console, or did run on one of their consoles 20 years ago and they dropped afterwards.
Unless it's Square Enix.
I saw you tweeting about, I guess I haven't gotten this far yet, but the music where they like sing SSD in the background, which first of all was in Playroom. I don't know if people remember.
It was.
Yeah. A lot of like the music, the soundtrack is excellent in this game, but also a lot of it is kind of either lifted or like rearranged from Playroom's soundtrack. But anyway,
it's definitely rearranged.
Yeah, but like Playroom, that hardware showcase aspect made total sense because it's like, you just bought this console. We want to like tell you all the cool shit in there. Like they're kind of doing that again 4 years later.
Yeah.
In a paid product now. Like that stuff feels a little weird, but it still feels like the IP stuff is like the... We talk about this game being corporate, and here I am calling it IP, not character.
I mean, it is, though. It's an IP celebration.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a Ready Player One kind of thing, almost.
Yes. Where are we all at? I just got to the third world.
I finished the third world today.
Okay.
I'm done with it.
Got it. So you've also finished it now?
Yeah.
I've been trying to savor it a little bit because I heard it wasn't that long.
Yes.
It's not. 2 nights ago, I finished it up. But now I'm going back and collecting everything that that is not who I am. I'm not a completionist person, but
they make it so easy.
It's so bite sized. Especially after you've done a level once, you can do the whole thing in like 5 minutes probably. Like that's
the thing. You don't have to finish it. If you go and you collect the bots and the other things that you need, you can just exit out of the level and you don't have to finish it.
That's good to know.
Exactly. And they make it they bookmark it in where you can just hit up that little bird at the beginning of a stage.
Just about to ask if that thing does what I think it does, which it leads you to the secrets, right?
Yeah, it's just a radar for secrets.
Does it help you find the warp zones though? Because I had a level where that was the only thing I was missing, and I bought the bird, and I couldn't ever like notice it saying, "Hey, go here" or whatever.
You could have just not been in the right area or something.
Yeah, I think I just did it at one of the first like Guerrilla universes where it was you had to like blow out 4 candles and then the galaxy showed up.
Is it like unique mechanic stuff like that you have to do to
sometimes.
Find it? It's not just like, look over this ledge and it's right there or something.
No, sometimes it's actually pretty involved. Sometimes it's kind of hidden in a way where like there's no way I really would have like had a meaningful shot to catch that maybe the first or second time around. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like I after the first few levels, I started getting a lot more meticulous. So I'm like not finishing every level with all the bots and puzzle pieces, but most of them, But the Lost Galaxy like warp zone things are the one that I've like. I found one of those, and that's it so far. Like they those things are deep.
Yeah, they're probably the most well hidden, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every boss fight I've done so far has been a delight. I think all the depth of the characters they have brought in for some of this stuff is pretty surprising. I literally unlocked some devil dice shit today when I was playing. Like that's how deep down the rabbit hole we are going with some of this stuff. It's just really meticulously made.
I don't know what it is about all the little extra things in this game that have me like wanting to pull that pachinko slot machine and like do the whole collectibles thing. Like you go back to that home world, you pull the lever, it's a thing and it pops up in that world right away, and you're like, oh my god, the thing I unlocked, I can now go back and interact with it. Like there's one thing where it like sets up 10 pins and then you have like a little bowling mini game and that unlocks a puzzle piece, and you're like, wow, okay, this feels like I'm not just unlocking art that I will scroll and sort of like look in 3 dimensions and then put away forever. Like it's interactive. Every character Astro Bot has like set dressing that you can unlock, and it's just smart. It's just very well executed. And I do think that a lot of it also has to deal with the fact that I just think it's for me, it's on that level of like Nintendo production value.
Oh yeah.
But it is on contemporary hardware that is as state of the art as consoles essentially go. And
for now,
right? But you don't, and tell me if this sounds crazy, but like there's certain things that the game is doing fidelity wise, an impressive amount of like items on screen at once.
Yeah, physics.
Physics stuff that like Nintendo games just can't really do because they're just right. They're just held to. And look, those games are always impressive and always phenomenal. But like there is this sort of unlocked thing that this game is doing that kind of separates it from a AAA Mario game.
Yeah,
right?
It's such a stark contrast from like a lot of the other stuff out on the PS5 right now. Like we'll get into this later, but especially with the PS5 Pro just being announced, like there's I've been playing Astro alongside Star Wars Outlaws, and that is a game that absolutely could benefit from a PS5 Pro. But sure. Astro, like the scope is so, I don't want to say limited, but like it's very focused, right? Like the levels aren't huge, like they put a lot of detail and a lot of like interesting mechanics into a small space, but the result is a game where you look at it, especially in light of the PS5 Pro, and you're like, this could not be better. Like there's nothing
exactly
you could meaningfully do to make this look better. Like it's super sharp. You don't see any seams anywhere, like just, not to get into like graphical features, but like reflections, physics, like you said, it's just like, the presentation is like sublime, it's like you could, I don't need you to run this at 8K or whatever. Like
yeah,
plenty of games need more horsepower on consoles right now, but this absolutely is not one of them.
It's so refined that when you do find those little bits where it's like, here's a giant vat full of jewels or robot skulls or something, it just feels like the developers being like, we're literally just like we have so much RAM and fucking space to burn that we are just going to start throwing particles at you because we have nothing else to do here, really.
I really have to salute the number of times they just dump 10 bajillion physics objects on you and lets you like spin attack through them and fling them everywhere.
Do that to me all day.
And
it does it flawlessly. Like none of that stuff really seems to make anything even think about chugging.
Yeah, and like that might be the single best use of haptics in this game is when you do a spin attack through like a giant pile of whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And like feel it getting all like flinging every which way. Like it just feels so good.
I remember when PS5s were first going out, and obviously everyone had like very enthusiastic reactions to that controller because it was the Astro Bot controller.
Right.
And it never, it really never rose to that occasion again until this game came out. And you're just like, well, it's kind of like controls just for this game, I guess.
Yep. I mean, that's
sort of what that is.
It's like the classic Nintendo problem, right? Of like, they put a lot of weird, interesting stuff in their controllers and then only they use them.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Because I guess there's like Returnal and some other Sony first party games have done some interesting stuff with the triggers and stuff. But yes, most third party games I don't even notice at this point. I've been more impressed as I've been going through it. Like I saw the day the reviews came out, like to be clear, I really like this game. Like Astro's Playroom was my game of the year in 2020. Like I very impressed with what's here, but like some of the stuff I was seeing out there of just like, oh, this is the best game Sony's ever made type stuff. I'm like, are you sure? Like, let's not be too hasty here. But like, I am seeing the more you move through it, the more new stuff you start to see that was not in Playroom. Like the unique levels they have done where they've basically recreated mechanics from their other games, like for one level, it's like, we made the God of War axe and let you throw it around. And we only use that for one level as far as I know, like that, like,
yep.
There's a good amount of stuff in here. I really hope that momentum kind of keeps up all the way through. I mean, I guess Bakalar, you would know. If
that's what's special. I think the special thing is when you're like constantly being bombarded with like something that is brand new and feels good at the same time. And it does that over and over and over again the further you play the game. And you're just, like you said, you're like, wow, they did this all for one stage. Like that's what it is. And the answer is like that happens so often. And for me, to even go back and to play like some of the the one Astro Bot sort of rescue mini stages where they present you with basically like a time trial kind of thing to reach the end. Like even that stuff, the complexity at which that continues to escalate and present you with challenges and that creative sort of like style in which the escalating challenges come at you is just really done in a super satisfying way, I think. And it's wild. It really does continue to deliver. I think there's never really a point, at least through my playthrough, where I was like, let's wrap it up, and if you can do that, I've got no notes,
That's good to hear, because like I've probably hit 3, maybe 4 stages now where you get the frog gloves, for example, like I started to worry like, are they going to wheel this one out one too many times, like, but hearing that it does finish strong, you would say?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because like Playroom, ended with that T-Rex fight. Like it felt like the way they brought like old PlayStation tech demo stuff in and turned it into bosses and all that stuff. It's like, all right, like there's a real build here. There's like a real crescendo this reaches that's just like fist pumping at the end. So like if this is doing that again, that makes me excited to see the end of it.
Yeah. For sure, even through like the credits, I'll say.
All right.
It's
Did you guys see what they did in Playroom? Like there was like a countdown event. I wish I had known about that. I would have totally gotten in there and seen that.
They did not message that.
No,
they hardly at all, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, that's a missed opportunity. I would have been there. That's awesome to hear.
I mean, there's YouTube videos. I mean, obviously people captured it. You can go out and see it, and I don't think there's a way to replicate it. And you may have had to have a pre-order for that to show up. I'm not sure, or maybe not actually. But
yeah, that's super smart though.
Yeah, it was literally like a party in Playroom with like a bajillion bots.
Oh yeah,
kind of just hanging out with you, and then like when it counted down to release, they all went bananas. Yeah, it's awesome to see this. Like it feels like a throwback in the best possible way, and it really makes me wonder what is that developer going to get to do next. I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like their stock in the company has to be ascendant at this point. But the thing is, they were always kind of this little shunted off to the side team making these cool little games. And I'm just like, okay, what does having more stock in Sony actually mean for you? Like, are they going to start putting you on live service games? What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, time will tell. We'll have to see how it sells before, like if the sales are not through the roof, it may not result in much for them. But like, it's just we talked about this last week. It's such a like crazy inflection point for their big live service initiative game to crash and burn days before this, little critical darling comes out. So like, I don't know. I don't know what Team Asobi is after this. Do they staff up and turn into like a 3-game studio? Like, do they start trying to bring Japan Studio back from the dead? I don't know.
I kind of hope not. Like, it's not that I don't think they could potentially use more people or do bigger things. It's just that we've seen what happens when, companies like Sony start scaling developers like crazy for whatever they think they need to be doing, and that always feels like a very easy way to accidentally knock them over.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very curious about sales for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Basing it on nothing really tangible, I want to know, if that sort of widespread universal acclaim transcends into that, because, everyone is familiar with the Playroom game.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen a ton of marketing around this. I don't know exactly like how much money is going into that side of the game's release. I feel like they have a little bit of blinders on about that part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how it really, does it in the market, because it's certainly, I guess, it's at a decent time, right, for people to be ready to play a Sony exclusive, and again, obviously, selfishly, like, hope it does well, because this is a game I want to see many more of. And but I do think right now it is a bit of a question mark.
Yeah, for sure. I saw this is such a small data point. Like, UK physical is always the first thing that comes out. Physical copies in the UK were not through the roof, but digital is like 80-90% of the market at this point. So like, we'll probably find out at the end of the month when the analysts start doing their kind of September wrap ups.
It feels like one of these games that will probably end up selling at least a couple million units, and it will be considered a quiet success within Sony, but the critical acclaim will probably help bolster whatever they want to do next.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you look at like there are like photos of the whole team out there, like, it's not a big team. Like, they only worked on it like
it's like 70 or 80 people total. I think
they only worked on it like 3 years, like, which 3 years used to be a long time to make a video game, but not anymore.
But certainly not at the top like Sony scale, for sure.
Yeah, but like just the amount of like hearts and minds this has captured has got to be worth, even if this is not a gangbusters financial success, like just having a win, like something this many people feel good about in the audience has got to justify it.
Absolutely, and I think people who are like keyed in and actively seek that stuff out will eventually bump into it and sort of figure
find their
it
way
out.
to it.
I think there is a sizable demographic that is not aware of this game. I think, and again, totally anecdotally, just at my kids' hockey game, all they do is talk about video games during, getting dressed and changing out. And the kids like, everyone's got to play Astro Bot. And 14 kids were like, what is Astro Bot? And I'm like, wow, not one kid knows what this game is. And this is a little after release, right? So I'm like, wow, okay, so it, sure, why would they be acutely aware of this title? But at the same time, I don't see any sort of like marketing position that is targeting that kind of demographic, which I think would do really well with it.
I just don't know that I've seen a lot of marketing for this game anywhere. Like, I'm sure they are buying ads in certain places, but it's just like I have not seen TV commercials or anything else for it.
Totally.
And I also, so the question I have is, of those kids, I don't expect you to just know this answer exactly, but like,
I know everything about every kid on the hockey team. What can I tell you?
Would you say the majority of them maybe have PlayStation 5s in the house?
I'd say the majority do. Yes. I'd say it's probably like a 60-40 split.
So they would know what Astro Bot is because they have that pack-in game.
But like, I was on the PlayStation blog this morning pulling up their PS5 Pro post. The big banner, like big kind of takeover advertisement thing is at the top is for Star Wars Outlaws, which is not even an exclusive PS5 game, let alone their like big first party mascot. So,
well, no, you can't get external revenue that way if you promote your own games with those ad units.
Yeah, oh, that's funny. I mean, Alex, I genuinely don't know if like buying a PS5, you're like instantly inclined to just play that game. If you're like,
I just mean see the logo at least on the dashboard there.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure, or just some kind of like image recognition, right? Yeah.
But I do think that Sony is probably not doing the best job they could, like getting this thing in front of people on a wider scale. Maybe because they're just shy about it and don't think that it's going to hit a wide audience. But I challenge them on this. I say that Astro Bot could be astronomically successful. You just gotta take a little bit of a risk. Get out there, spend some dollars.
Yeah. Sony needs a Mario. It's been 30 years, like quite literally, in 2 months, 3 months. I think 3 months from now is the 30th anniversary. They've never had their own Mario. It's finally time.
I mean, if Astro's not their Mario, they're never going to get one.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is definitely for sure. Also, I have to say, I think this is the first time I have encountered your Mario in the wild.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh, God.
I don't even blink anymore now.
I've heard tales, but I've never...
Oh, my sweet brain. My sweet brain.
This is a special day.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Well, as you can see, there's nothing I can do about it. This is who I am.
All good. Just embrace it.
Russ Frushtick and myself sit on a very lonely island.
Mm-hmm. Not that lonely island, just yours.
Yeah, just the Mario East Coast island, I guess. Yeah.
All right, that is Astro Bot. That is for the PlayStation 5. It is $60. Just in case you don't know. We're going to take a quick break here. We got several more video games to talk about here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be right back after this.
This week's show is brought to you by Lexus Racing. That's right, Lexus Racing. We're big motorsport fans here at the Nextlander podcast, and while you may know Lexus best as a luxury car brand, they've also been out there in the world of motorsport since 2017. Lexus Racing has been built on a foundation of precision, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. And last year, all those elements came together as Lexus, with their team partners at Vassar Sullivan, won the 2023 IMSA GTD Pro Class Championship with Lexus RCF GT3. In 2024, that very same team is on the track once again and back in title contention as they race into the final stretch of the season. And you can follow them every race weekend by keeping your eyes peeled for the Dayglow yellow and black Lexus RCF GT3 cars. And you can head to lexus.com/motorsports to learn more about the team and find out about all the upcoming races. That's lexus.com/motorsports. Thanks, Lexus. This week's Nextlander podcast is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Bradley Shoemaker.
Alex Navarro.
I have learned something terrifying today.
Uh-oh.
Brad Shoemaker, there is pornography on the internet.
What?
I know.
What?
You can go on the internet and you can find that pornography, but you know what else can happen, Brad?
What's that?
People can see what pornography you are looking at. Whether or not you're using an incognito browser, there is always the chance that your incognito browsing might not be so incognito.
I don't know what you're talking about, cop. Look, we're not here to judge. Just look out for yourself, okay?
We are not here to judge. We are here to read advertisements, and this advertisement is about ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your traffic through their secure encrypted servers, so third parties cannot see your browsing history. It hides your IP address, and it's very easy to use. You just load up the client, pick your location, and get the hell in there and hide yourself and hide your porno.
That's right. Get virtual and private.
ExpressVPN works on all devices, phones, laptops, tablets, and more, and it is rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge.
I've heard of them.
I myself have used ExpressVPN. Good speeds, very reliable, just what you want out of a VPN service. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/nextlander. That's expressvpn.com/nextlander. And you can get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/nextlander. Thanks, ExpressVPN.
All right, we're back. Alex Navarro, the veil has lifted on I Am Your Beast, belatedly.
I am your beast. Indeed.
I believe now you can talk about it.
I can. So this game was supposed to come out last month. It got delayed because they had some bugs they wanted to fix, and they also, like, Strange Scaffold is not a very big team.
Yeah.
I think they are very explicitly, their company motto is don't ruin developers' lives or something. Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but basically like don't wreck yourself trying to make things too fast. So they took their time, and I appreciate that. But we played a demo of this a while ago. This is it's technically a first-person action game. It is a shooter and a knife thrower, and they throw bear traps at dudes' heads. But it is also kind of in that neon white vein of the levels are all fairly short, and the idea is to try and do them as quickly as humanly possible. And the setup is that you are a sort of Solid Snake-like, a government operative that has retreated into the deep, dark woods to get away from his years of killing. And then the military comes back and they want you for one last job. And your character's like, nah, fuck that. And just starts killing everyone that they send after him.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Makes sense.
All right.
Yeah. And so this is in the vein of other recent Strange Scaffold games. It is all written by the lead person there, Xavier Nelson. He also voices the main character. The other characters are voiced by other people. I don't know the actors off the top of my head. But he, it's similar to what he did in El Paso Elsewhere from last year, where he is just sort of doing the main narrative of the main character as it goes along. And that stuff is really good. I think this is probably, of the 3 games that Strange Scaffold has put out this year, somehow, this is definitely my favorite.
Okay. Did you ever go back and play Click Holding?
I checked it out, yeah. I spent the half hour you spend with that thing. It is a weird, fun experiment that I'm glad he actually put out into the world. I would not call it among my favorite things they have done.
Did you get to the 10,000 clicks?
I did get to the
10,000
clicks.
All right.
Yeah.
What's the 10,000?
You should Click Holding. It's like at $3. I think it's $3 if you want to go check it out.
It's like a 30-minute game, basically.
It's like 30, 45-minute like narrative game, but
Got it.
It opens with you stuck in a hotel room with a guy sitting there who very quickly reveals himself to have a gun, and he hands you one of those little like clicker devices, like counters, like you would use.
Like they do at like the front door of like clubs and stuff.
Yeah, like a venue. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And he, in a very sinister way, just demands that you click over and over until you get. He basically says, "I got a bunch of money for you, but you have to click this thing 10,000 times, so get to clicking."
Mm-hmm. And it's done in a very pornographic kind of way.
Yeah, it's a very interesting 45 minutes. Anyway, as I Am Your Beast living up to it, like the demo, like we streamed some of it, it looked pretty self-explanatory. Like you see a run or two, and you very much get the gameplay. Like does it change? How does it evolve?
Mostly the way it evolves is that they give you new things that you can use to kill people. Right. Sometimes the objectives change a little bit. I'm not that deep into it. I'd say I'm probably like 12 levels deep, and I've unlocked a couple of the bonus levels. But the narrative is really good. Like it's a pretty basic setup, but like the voice acting is really solid, and the writing is really solid. But the action is also really good. Like it's a little glitchy in a couple of places. Not anything I would call like ruinous by any stretch. But just the moment-to-moment of jumping from place to place, doing parkour, shooting guys in the head, throwing bear traps at their skulls, like it has a really frantic feel that still feels tight. Like there's just enough aim assist on headshots that it feels like a little bit of a lineup is all you need to like do some serious fucking government op killing the way that this guy is supposed to be trained as.
Does this have like a lot of leaderboard hooks? Like, is it kind of built for speedrunning or like competition with your friends type stuff, the way that Neon White was?
I actually haven't looked at the leaderboards. I assume there are some, but like it is tracking your time on every level, and there is a time limit on every level. But the idea also is you want to try and get higher and higher scores and get better times. Because also some of the unlocks are gated behind you, like say you have to beat at least 2 stages with an A rank, that kind of thing.
Okay. Bakalar, it seems like you guys, your current staff are real big on the friendly competition where time trials and such are involved.
Friendly. What a charitable
speedrun trials.
From Astro Bot to the Neon White Open that we participated in.
What a charitable way to describe their...
All right. Let me be less charitable. Dan is a fucking competition junkie.
They've got the itch in a way that I find like I just cannot relate to. Although maybe I need to walk that back a little bit. They have recently, we haven't really, I don't think we talked about this, but we've been doing something similar with the mini New York Times crossword.
Oh.
And I've caught a bit of the competition bug with that because I kind of fancy myself on being able to do that under around 45 seconds or so.
Wow.
And Then Lucy James comes along and she's like, yo, I regularly go sub 30 seconds. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And it's just become a thing. So yeah, something like this, what you're describing, would definitely be up their collective alleys.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think this would be in their wheelhouse.
I just pulled up today's mini crossword. I am not going to try to do it live though.
Mm-hmm. You should not.
Number 8, things often skipped while listening to podcasts. Three letters. There you go.
There you go. ADS. There you go. Let's go.
There you go. Anyway,
no one ever skips our ads though.
No, they're unskippable.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, like Alex just said, I'm not sure if I Am Your Beast has those sorts of hooks in it with leaderboards and stuff, but it seems like very much that kind of time trial game that those guys might get into, like competing on times for.
Yeah, I'm gonna check this out too.
Yeah.
I just want to again emphasize though, this is the 10th game that Strange Scaffold has made.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would love like a no clip or somebody to maybe do a behind the scenes with them at some point and just like kind of peel back like how they do things, like what their production process is like. It's just like, how are you shipping multiple games every year? Like that's probably a really interesting look behind
the curtain. Part of it is scale.
Yeah.
Like a big part of it is that all their games are fairly short experiences because they are not trying to create like these big giant, sort of like AAA worlds. They're trying to do these things that are supposed to be a little bit more bite-sized and a little bit more budget, but like effectively so. But I want to say again, 10 games since 2021.
Right. Like that's the thing. It's like I assume they are not shipping a game and then starting fresh in a clean sheet of paper on the next game, right? Like they'd have to be spinning 3-4 plates at a time. Like I assume that, all of those games were in development at the same time, like in different stages of production. So like spinning that many plates at one time, I think is what I'm interested in.
I think it's two things. I think Salavier has one of those 1,000 idea people, like is the thing I get. And it's not that he's trying to make all those ideas, but when he thinks something's good, like it seems like he and his team homing in on it. The other thing being that, so Clickholding in particular, I think wasn't even supposed to be a game that came out this year. I think this is the game he was talking about, but he was tweeting about it and it was like, he just mentioned to someone offhand, oh yeah, we have another finished game. We just don't know what we're going to do with it. And they were like, how the fuck do you have another game just sitting on a hard drive that's done? How is that even possible?
Yeah.
And then they just put it out.
Someone's got to talk to them. I just want to know.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a really interesting guy.
They're not inventing technology, right? Like, no. I think there's that part of it too, where like, not to, and again, not for a second we would take anything away from like their development process, but it's got to be some kind of like really effective economical groove that they've found, right?
Yeah, I think so. And, they're also working within very specific frameworks that do exist, but they are still having to make games around. Like, El Paso Elsewhere is a Max Payne game, like more or less. But they also had to, make a Max Payne game that worked, and they did.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Right. It's like they went from a poker game to a third-person shooter to a like first-person narrative adventure to now like this sort of time trial. Like, what was the game they made that aren't you like sort of? It's not video editing, right? But it's some kind of timeline kind of.
Oh
thing.
Yeah.
Like that. What was that?
Oh, what was the name of that game? Hang on, I have it. I played it.
The point is like every game they make is like totally different from every other game they've made,
totally
right? So
different,
even if they're small in scope, like they're like you said, they're still having to like learn a new discipline like every time. It's really
wild.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
What's going on?
Really impressive.
Yeah, it just when you have a good creative team and people you can trust and you know what kind of scale you can work within, I think that it goes a long way. The game was called Life Eater, by the way.
Yes. Is that the one where you're like serving some eldritch god by killing people or not killing people or something?
Yeah, that's the premise, is that it's sort of like the movie Frailty. It's like the idea of I'm killing these demons, these bad people or whatever, but also you're a serial killer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sounds like a convenient excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they also like option El Paso Elsewhere?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lakeith Stanfield, I believe, is supposed to play the title character.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really, really moving up in the world.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
love to see it.
Yes. That is I Am Your Beast. It's $10 on Steam.
It's $20.
20. Oh, I'm sorry. Where did I get 10?
Yeah, it's $20.
$20 on Steam. Excuse me.
But I think well worth that.
While we're talking about Steam games that we streamed Next Fest demos for some weeks ago, Utopia Must Fall came out this week. If you watched that stream we did, I think it was the last game we played. I found it like on a lark. The easiest way to describe this game is it is a missile command roguelike but there's actually way more going on than that. But like it is the basic, like if you look at it, you're the first thing you're going to think is Missile Command. Like it's
right.
You got a little city at the bottom, you're shooting into the sky as a bunch of shit is falling at you. It's actually part Missile Command, but there's also like Centipede and asteroids and Space Invaders in there in terms of like the stuff that's falling and like the patterns it's doing and stuff.
This is speaking my language.
It's rad. It is very cool. It's only $6. It's also an itch. It is early access right now. It's the premise is like aliens are attacking Earth, and you are every time you do a different run, they give you a different city. So it's like Neo Tokyo one run, Chicago 2.0 the next run. It's got a really interesting sense of humor. It's also like I feel like the word vibes is maybe a little overused these days. We need I need some other ways to talk about vibes, but it is vibes as fuck, man. Like it's all like fake vector graphics, so it looks like a Missile Command. Like you can go in the options. They've got like 10 different types of monochrome monitors you can cycle through to make the vectors look different. It sounds like it's quintessential like early 80s ominous nuclear apocalypse type shit. Like the synthesized speech is like out of war games. It's got this really like dark driving Vangelis-y sort of synth soundtrack. Like the animation is fantastic. Like it's just there's a mood to it that is intense. And it's round based, so like every round is a day, quote unquote, in the invasion or whatever. And there's like a lot of really like dark apocalyptic humor in. They do upgrades every round, you know, standard roguelike stuff. It's like make it through a wave. Here's like 4 upgrades to pick from. There's a lot of really interesting dark humor in there. Like your thing to re-roll every day is like putting money into like social initiatives, for example, like freezing the brains of a bunch of politicians and influencers and burying them in your city to preserve culture, and stuff like that, or like putting money into like alien outreach efforts and stuff. You can so you've got nukes. Sorry, I should talk about the actual mechanics. So like you've got nukes that work like Missile Command, right? Like you shoot a thing, it takes a couple seconds for them to get there, and then they fan out into a big explosion. But that's your special. Like you only have you start with 3 nukes and they're pretty limited. Your actual main attack is this machine gun that just shoots constantly. And it's on like they call it it's a gimbal basically. Meaning you move the machine gun back and forth, but it takes forever for the shots to catch up to where the machine gun is pointing, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure.
Right, yeah, there's like a momentum to the way the bullets are cutting through the air.
So at the beginning of a run, you have to lead the shit out of your targets. It's actually really tricky, but like there's a ton of upgrades in there for like shoot faster, double your shots, you know, like make the gimbal move faster, stuff like that. So like I pretty much hammer on all those upgrades first because shooting, just the basic shooting is pretty tough. But you can put money in the upgrades into like nuclear research so that you can like buy more warheads. But like after like day 7, it'll be like extra nukes no longer available because the world's armaments markets have been destroyed. You know, it's like over time as you go through a run and the days progress, like the world is like visibly falling apart through, you know, they're telling that story through like upgrade text and stuff. It's really interesting, and like it's very stripped down. Like I said, it's only $6. Very like minimalist. But plays super well. Like it's super satisfying. There's like, you know, a shitload of upgrades for like the shield around your city. You get like arc attacks that'll like kind of zap some of the debris coming at you. Like ways for the shield to recharge in different ways. Like lots of upgrades around that stuff. It's really cool. It looks good as hell. Plays really well. Cheap, like I said. And it's only on PC right now. It's on Steam and itch. But the game is like vertically oriented, and a lot of the controls feel like they're basically like made for swiping. So I really wonder if this is like bound for mobile at some point.
Interesting.
Like for example, you have a target you move around, obviously, to like target your nukes and stuff. When you get the upgrade that adds 2 shots to your machine gun, you can customize the firing pattern, but you just do that by moving the mouse up and down. It's like if I'm aiming high, my shots are like tight. If I move down, they go wider. So like. Sure. It feels like stuff where you would be like swiping your thumb up and down to change that potentially. So this would be a killer mobile game, is what I'm saying. If it comes to that. But anyway, Utopia Must Fall. It is $6 on Steam and itch. It's in early access. A very good.
I have $6. I could get on that.
Like it's a really good. Like I don't know how much I want to talk about FTL, but I've also fallen way down the FTL hole this week.
Oh boy!
For the first time in about a decade.
I was going to ask, like, do you have moments where you're back in a big way, but a decade would say no. It's been a while.
I mean, I hate that that game's so fucking hard, man. I have never been good at FTL, and I always hit the difficulty wall and just rage quit it. But what I was going to say is, like, Utopia Must Fall also is in that vein of, like, this runs in a window. You can just, like, have it sitting there, while you're working and just kind of go and do a round or two. And
then a little background noise for you.
Yeah.
Like kind of a Balatro sort of thing.
I was going to say, that's how my relationship with Balatro is. Yeah.
Yes, like the windowed roguelike, I feel like, is something that you should have around at all times to just kind of, something you can just go to when you need it.
I would describe trusty companion that runs in your third monitor and you're good to go.
Yep.
And eventually becomes a thing you have to talk about to your therapist about because it's ruining your life.
Wait.
Just like Balatro.
Have you actually brought up Balatro in therapy?
I have mentioned a couple of games that sometimes I have a very hard time putting down in the context of trying to figure out like what some of my more addictive triggers are in terms of things that take my attention. And that is something that I did briefly mention, yes.
Huh. Did your therapist, this is maybe me prying too much, did your therapist know what Balatro was?
Not at all. The only game she's ever played is Animal Crossing.
Not the one I would have guessed.
I mean, she's, in her 30s. She doesn't play a lot of video games. She likes Animal Crossing. I think that's not that far out of the realm of possibility. But she takes my discussions and descriptions of video games like a champ. Like, she listens, and she does not seem like she is nodding off while I explain video games to her.
See, a therapist is another one, like the boss of a thing, where when you say your therapist is younger than you, I'm like, wait, what? Like, it feels like a therapist should always be older than you. I'm not saying you can't see one who's younger. It's just like, in my mind, anybody in some kind of like medical position like that is always by default going to be older than me in my mind.
I think that's what happens for like the first part of your life, and then you hit a certain point where you're like, all the doctors and athletes are younger than me.
I'm older than everyone. Shit.
It's not good. It's not good. It's not good at all.
I'll say this. I had that exact same anxiety at first. After one session, I was like, no, you're good. We're good.
Yeah, they just can't be under 30. Like, that's what it is.
No one under 30 knows anything.
Exactly. And they're all the worst. That's why, everyone's like, oh, what age would you be for your whole
Present
life?
company included. We were all monsters when we were in our 20s. We accept that and acknowledge it.
Walking dumpster people. Absolutely. 33 is the age you want to be forever. That's the perfect
age. That's right before the back pain sets in, usually.
Exactly.
Sure, yeah.
Yep.
Still got a little bit of that youthful exuberance, but, you've kind of like found your way a little bit.
The weariness has only started to lightly kiss you,
I've just met too many people in my life who refuse to take people under 30 seriously. So you skirt around that issue and you're good to go, If you're going bald, in my case, it's not completely taken over your entire presentation.
Like, it's a little early, but you could justify it.
Some people,
it's distinguished.
My dad was fully bald by like early 20s, actually. But
yeah, my brother was done at like 19.
Really?
So I was really playing with house money.
Wow.
It
worked out. It's all right.
It's okay. Being bald just means that you're a degenerate.
That's exactly what it means.
Yeah, your soul is impure. That's why your hair fell out.
But hey, I never think twice about buying hats now.
That's right.
No. Buy all the hats.
Just a whole new,
I've got them all.
Whole new fashion outlet for you to pursue. All right. I'll just touch on Star Wars Outlaws very briefly. Like I said, I thought Bakalar was a Star Wars guy. I was just kind of like counting on you having also played Outlaws.
I can also speak to I have the same relationship with Star Wars as I do American football. Okay. Could not care less if it disappeared tomorrow, but also know about it in a very detailed way.
Okay.
And like know most of the rules and like most of the canon and can watch it and be fine. But it's not your thing. I have no need for it. Like, that's
you have hockey.
As long as there's hockey and like, pinball, I'm probably okay.
Mm-hmm. Wait, is pinball what you have instead of Star Wars?
Well, I don't think they're similar. One's like a universe of fiction, of science fiction, and one of the other is just like
one is just a lot of expensive machinery.
Yeah, the other one is just like Rube Goldbergian bullshit, right? So, I don't know if they compare in that way, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have that. I don't have like a world that I'm obsessed with. The way people kind of wrap themselves up in Star Wars stuff.
Your hockey stick is your lightsaber.
Yeah, I mean, God, put that on a t-shirt, huh?
Someone probably has by now.
Yeah.
There's got to be some like fucking Mario Lemieux t-shirt bootleg with him fucking wielding a fucking lightsaber or something, right?
I hope that exists.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I spell Lemieux on the first try? I did. I am Googling Mario.
Oh, that's impressive.
Mario Lemieux lightsaber. Well, he was in a video game or two back in the day, which is the only reason.
Right.
Is the only reason I know who he is.
In fact, I think there was at least one video game titled after him, wasn't there?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it?
I think it was just Mario Lemieux hockey or something like
hockey, maybe a year after that.
Yeah, like pro hockey or something like that.
Dude, there's a whole growth market waiting for you. There, I can't find a single image featuring both Mario Lemieux and a lightsaber.
All right, well, someone at the Jersey Shore, get on that.
God, that is... I having just visited that place, there was a thing that happened over the summer that I don't want to talk about. Oh. But when it did happen, there were T-shirts of the thing the same day.
Oh,
I'm so confused right now. What could this possibly be?
Is it something that happened to you personally, or something that happened?
No, I've got it. I know what it is.
Yes, of course.
I know what it is.
Of course.
Like in a way where you're like, what the. I mean, anyone can just download a photo and print it onto a T-shirt. I understand, but like,
all you need is an internet connection and a screen printer. Like, you're good.
Okay.
And if you're on the boardwalk, you've got those two things.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. I doubt any of us are equipped to answer it, but I'm going to put it out there for the audience.
Okay.
This is some like broad East Coast cultural lore.
Okay.
What is worse for people who've been to both, the Jersey Shore or Myrtle Beach?
Oh, I've been to both.
Oh, have you been to both?
I've been to both.
Yeah, I've been to both.
Really? Okay, well, I guess you were well equipped then.
I've been to both, but it's been 30 years apart, the two places when I was there. So my memory is maybe a little bit broken, but...
So the Jersey Shore is not a singular place like Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
It's several places, but there is like a general region that is sort of, colloquially known as the Jersey Shore.
Right, but that is like a stretch of like maybe 50 to 70 miles. Like
it's several towns.
Right, so you can go one town to the other and have a very different
Like Cape May is way different than Atlantic City, you know?
Yes, I like those two very opposing points. So like that's a thing. So if you're comparing like the worst part of the Jersey Shore and Myrtle Beach, you're probably, shaking out maybe even.
Okay.
And then there's certainly very more family-friendly destinations on the Jersey Shore that would make Myrtle Beach look like Biff's 1985 for sure. Mm-hmm. So
all right, good to know.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, Star Wars Outlaws.
You're playing it.
Yeah, I'll say. I mean, it was kind of derailing my Astro Bot, which
wow,
I can't believe I'm saying that because my feelings that I expressed last week, both positive and negative, have both only intensified since then. Mm-hmm. Which is to say, like, I have turned it off in disgust numerous times because I think parts of it just play like shit currently. At the same time, the upgrade loop and the just Star Wars-ness of the whole thing is so potent, and both of those things I think are slightly embarrassing. The Star Wars less so. Like it's a well-rendered Star Wars world. Like, it's fun to explore. It looks good. There's like fun aliens everywhere to look at. Like, that's fine. Yeah.
It's rendering the environments and doing it well.
Yeah, like I won't lie, like that is the reason I would play this game, just to like be around that stuff. It's Rise of the Resistance for me. It's like I want to go on that ride and I want to be around that stuff.
Yeah, that's like 60% of the reason I'm playing it. The other 40% is just the fucking Skinner box or whatever you want to call it, just the endless upgrade grind. It's just like, man, I only need like 3 more carbonite to get this blaster upgrade. I'm just going to play another hour.
Look, man, there is no judgment here for giving in to that lizard brain instinct that says that number must go up. Like, those open world games do it to me every fucking time. As long as you're aware of it and you don't let it ruin your life, you're fine.
Yeah, it's the Far Cry-ness of it that has kind of gotten its hooks in me. Anyway, I did finally make myself put it down, A, to play more Astro Bot, B, they're still patching it and making fairly significant changes to it. Like
I saw that.
The patch just rolled
How
out.
so?
Like the patch. I don't know if they've said exactly what they did, but the director had said this like last week, and then the patch just came out yesterday morning, where they actually have tweaked the stealth mechanics quite a bit. Like basically said, like, hey, these no-fail stealth missions, like we're getting a lot of feedback from players, like these are clearly not working the way we want them to, so we are softening some of that stuff or something. I don't know if they, again, I don't know what they have done exactly, but if they're, you know, if they're still like 2 weeks after release, like making changes to core gameplay mechanics, I'm thinking like, maybe I should wait on this one a little bit longer. But I do, for better or worse, see myself playing a lot more Outlaws as the year progresses. Anyway, that's Star Wars Outlaws. That's $70 on everything except Switch.
You know, I downloaded this game. I was genuinely ready to play this, and then I just heard a couple of conversations, you know, some of the Giant Bomb guys were talking about, and it led me away from it. It was like, you know what? I don't need to do this yet. And I had that same line of thinking of like, this is one of those, like maybe a couple months from now, there's a quality of life improvement that comes through and washes over this entire thing, and it's in a better spot. And yeah, I think like what you're saying is leading into that. And I realize why you had to play it. You couldn't help yourself. I understand. You're that's totally cool.
You have needs that you need to fill.
You got to fill those.
A dragon that must be chased.
Questioning
hey,
every
number
moment.
go up. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I share that with you. I desire that too. And I will play this game. But yeah, it's interesting to see how that sort of, I don't want to say this game was dead on arrival, but I do think for the first time, the lukewarm anticipation of it was actually met fairly evenly by its release. Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that one as the patches roll out, as better hardware releases, because I am playing it on the PS5. Anyway, last game here, Jeff Bakalar. What's up with Fortnite these days?
I have like 100 hours in Fortnite, you guys.
Is this a recent thing? I mean, obviously,
probably the last like. Yeah, I was gonna say probably like the last 18 months or so.
Oh, okay. Because I mean, obviously, it takes you a while to get to 100 hours, but I don't know how fast you got there.
No, not fast at all. Okay. I don't want to say how many my child has, because it is a lot more than that. So
that was going to be my thing when you said like most of the kids at hockey have PS5s. Like I had started to ask, is that mostly for Fortnite?
It's mostly for Fortnite. Yeah. I think in a lot of homes the PS5 is their Fortnite box. I think the game is really good. It's I think there is a certain stigma that it carries for game players of a certain age that kind of look down on it, and then you start to understand like just how it does its secret sauce, and you're like, you know what, this is actually a very technically sound and impressive experience, and this game's really good, and it's a lot of fun. And look, obviously have a really awesome gameplay relationship with my kid where we play together a lot, and that game speaks to him in a way that it probably doesn't speak to me, where he has a different kind of relationship with it, where he digs into strategy, and he enjoys watching like YouTube players who talk about the game's intricacies, and he's obsessed with like all of his friends are always talking about live events, and like they are part of this world. It is like a living, breathing community that he is actively a member of, and I think for him that is he gets so much entertainment and enjoyment, and just like positivity out of it. I really struggled to find, aside from like peeling him off of it every now and then on a Saturday when he's been playing for 3 hours, and we're like,
naturally,
dude,
yes,
we have to go. Obviously that's always going to be a problem, but I dealt with that as a child as well. It's great. He's able to keep in touch with his friends from Virginia and Massachusetts, and any new friend he has, he's able to just exist and play with them, and it's a very healthy environment. And as long as you are, as a parent, hands-on with what that interactivity is like, you can really make a safe space for these guys. And it's, it's great. I love watching him play. I love playing with him. And never in my wildest dreams that I think like one of my childhood friend, and our 2 children would be playing quads together in Fortnite. There's something to that is just indescribable and kind of surreal.
That's nice. That's very nice. I started to ask if you felt any need to like police what's going on when you're not there, and how, if so.
We made it very clear that like you can only friend people in real life. And you can only talk to those people, and we have those settings in check, and that's always a thing I'm like constantly going back in and making sure they are there. And he's never, we also have it set up that he can't play where we aren't within earshot of him. And we, thankfully we have a house that like facilitates that kind of dynamic, right? Because if it was just like a basement thing and he was out of sight for, 3 to 5 hours at a time, like, sure, we could run into some of that out of sight, out of mind stuff. But we have, and I do play with him a lot too. So I'm able to kind of like keep tabs on him in that capacity as well. But yeah, I think there's a balance that you just have to figure out as you play, because it's funny, as much as we all play games, I don't think I was like equipped to really tackle the challenges of like, oh, he's like, you have a kid now who's like old enough to just really be, have the potential to be let loose on the internet as it relates to playing a game online. And I didn't know all of the, the parental settings and all that stuff that was on a PS5 and what that was all like. And, this forced me to obviously become super familiar with all that stuff. But no, it's been really good.
That's heartwarming.
Yeah.
Fortnite, perhaps a force for good after all, in some respects.
I mean, there's obviously things to criticize, but I'm pleasantly surprised how much falls into the positivity category with that game, for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, that's Fortnite. You don't need to tell you where that's out. That's out everywhere. It's free to play. All right. I think that is going to do it for video games. How's about we take a quick break? Come back and talk about some news, eh?
Sounds good.
All right. We shall adjourn. Be right back. All right. We are back, and in the video game news this week, $700 is the price of the PlayStation 5 Professional. Obviously, there's plenty of other details that we will get into there, but gentlemen, your thoughts?
I'm going to let you lead with this one.
Myself,
yeah, you,
or
Bakalar,
Brett?
yeah.
So I, instantly kind of laughed at the price.
How could you not?
Right? How could you not? Although I think Keeley like tweeted something about what the other consoles came out adjusted for inflation, and this was like cheaper than PS3 when adjusted for inflation.
Okay.
Certainly not a new launch console, right? It's not a new generation console, right? It's a half step.
Yeah, and also that's a pretty low bar, because the PS3 is like probably the most egregious pricing example in video game history.
And who doesn't remember seeing the price of that thing and just like having to scoop their eyeballs back off the floor and back into their sockets?
I mean, that became a meme when like the term meme was not even widely used.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think, we just got finished talking about it, and you said it yourself, Brad. Like, we just got finished talking about Astro Bot and how that game looks and performs so flawlessly, and you then are faced with the notion of like, and now's the time to possibly upgrade, and it's going to cost you $700 and $250 on top of what you currently own. And I think I was really trying to rack my brain about when PS4 Pro hit, and again, keep me honest here, guys, but I do remember there being a much more tangible desire for an upgrade,
sure.
Where I believe 4K was like the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there was
the
like
4K HDR stuff had really started taking off by that point.
Yeah, and those consoles that generation were just weak out of the gate. Like, they just were pretty underpowered to
Both
begin
of
with.
them were, yeah.
And then like they could barely do 1080p, and then like you said, the 4K revolution transition, whatever, just happened 3 years later, and it was like, well, shit, we got to do something, because these are going to start looking very bad on these TVs soon.
Exactly. And they got stale fast, and the PS4 Pro came out, and I remember that event in New York and being like, holy shit, like this is meaningful. This is, and right, Alex, we had it in, didn't we get in the New York office?
We did.
Right. And we were doing like side by side stuff, and it was like, it was noticeable. It was,
it was a distinctive difference.
Like,
not like, a full generational leap, but it certainly was a fidelity difference.
Right. And I think now you have not a similar argument being made, but certainly an argument coming from a position of like, this thing has the Pro moniker now, and I just think the return is nominal in a way where it is one of the toughest, I think, practical sells I've really come across in a while. I think it's a very difficult bridge to gap. Yeah.
That's kind of where I come out on it as well, is that it's not that I wanted to get one of these necessarily. Like my PS5, other than some occasional hiccups here and there, seems like it's mostly holding together just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I could have allowed myself to be sold on it if, one, the price were less absurd, and two, they really had a better hook for what it is that actually makes this thing distinctive from the launch PS5. And the problem is a 9-minute video of Mark Cerny saying, hey, we created this problem where everyone has a performance mode and everyone has a fidelity mode, and what if that, maybe we don't have that anymore. Like, that just was not a solid, punchy pitch. It wasn't a thing that said, oh, you're actually solving like a real problem here. It's more of like hey, we might be getting rid of a compromise here, and that's not really that sexy. Yeah. It's just not.
Well, that's exactly what it is, hey, philosophically, yes, we want to eliminate that compromise, but he's already said, there are games, PS5 Pro games, that have like 3 different Pro-specific modes, Yeah. Now they are just creating different higher tiers
different kinds of compromises.
But like, I think the way they pitched it made it pretty clear who they think this thing is for right out of the gate, because he did lead with that stat that I was kind of surprised they got into this. He's like 3/4 of our players are playing on performance mode, and of course they collect data around stuff like that, so they know. I was shocked to hear that, actually. Because,
is that the default? But is that the default mode?
That's what I'm wondering.
So this PS5 lets you set a system default, I believe, for that. But I don't.
So what's the default of the default?
That's exactly it. I don't remember out of the gate what that defaults, and that might even be influenced by like it detects what resolution you're running. It's like, oh, you're on a 1080p TV. We're going to set that to performance. I'm actually not sure.
Sure.
We all know it is a vocal group of people, whether it's a minority or not online. They are very vocal people who want higher frame rates and sharper looking games on consoles. So I think that's the type of people this console is being positioned toward by Sony this time around. I also just wonder, when you look at the fact that Microsoft is not doing a half-step update this time, like I really just wonder if they came out of the last generation saying like, the PS4 Pro went well enough, like we should just do that again. We should just build that into the roadmap. I'm not sure if that was a thing where it's like, hey, the wheels have been turning on this for 4 years, like since the PS5 came out, like we're pot committed to this. We're just going to go ahead and see it through, even if sort of like the PSVR 2, it turns out to maybe be not something a lot of people wanted, or, it doesn't get off the ground in the same way. I don't know.
What was the number floating around about the size of the pie that represented PS4 Pro people?
The thing I've seen in the last like 24 hours, and I didn't source this, but I saw somebody, I think it was an analyst, saying it was like 12% of total PS4 sales were the Pro, which is actually way lower than I would have expected.
Right, which is maybe part of the calculus from Microsoft's position, right, of their just sitting that out in making a half-step console. I don't know. Yeah. But I do think if you are operating from that, number or the ballpark of that 12% number, like certainly the expectation can't be that you're going to eclipse that from Sony, right? Like, or rather, come over the top of that, especially when you have such a price increase that feels so disproportionate to the last time these two consoles existed together.
I just don't think this is a compelling argument. I don't think this is the thing that says this justifies the idea of doing another set of half-step consoles. This is a problem you absolutely could have ridden out for the next few years until it's time to do the PlayStation 6. I think they might be making a bad choice here.
Yeah,
to do this at all.
Time will tell how much this moves, but like it's a very expensive piece of hardware, but also I feel like everybody now already knows whether they want to spend that money or not.
Yeah,
you know? like
and I don't.
Like people,
let me tell you,
like that's fine, and like people know, is it worth this much extra money? And like if you have a PS5, like Sony themselves do direct trade-ins, and there's GameStops out there. Like I would assume most people who want this are going to trade their old PS5 in for some few $100s off of the price of this thing. But like I think everybody already on the planet can tell you right now whether they want this thing or not. Like there's no more convincing that needs to be done. Like you're either in or out at a price like that.
Yeah.
I was surprised with how they messaged it too. I think I assumed that it was going to be much more surface level. Well, maybe not with Mark Zuckerberg, but the surface level of like, hey, doesn't compromising suck? Like I realized that is essentially what they got across. But I was surprised that they didn't lean into a much more pedestrian sort of like, how would you like to never worry about that ridiculous thing kind of ever again? Instead of they just sort of over explained, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's surprising. I just think. I think there were a lot of stars and planets that were lining up for PS4 Pro's launch, and I think it's almost like the exact opposite this time around.
Yeah, in terms of market demand, I think you may be right. I mean, time will tell, of course. I think there probably is an aspect of this also maybe serving as R&D a bit for the PS6 because they are doing their upscaling. Like the thing that's been hot in PC games basically since right after this console launched, the PS5 launched, right? Like your DLSSs and stuff like that give you basically a bunch of free extra resolution on the PC. Like all that stuff happened right after these consoles came out. So so in that sense, like they are doing their version of that on this thing, and that's obviously laying the groundwork for whatever the next actual console is going to be.
And don't forget also like the extended overtime for market for like the equilibrium of demand it took for people to finally be able to find a PlayStation 5. Right?
Yes.
And I think that also contributes to this kind of feeling of like, oh, this is soon. Like this feels early, right? I think
because that first year was basically like you had a very hard time finding one.
Exactly. And you have to, scale that out and just consider how many people are basically still kind of like fresh with their PS5 that maybe they've only had for, a year and a half. Maybe 2 years. That absolutely goes into the buying decision for a lot of people. But I think you're right, Brad. I think there's the freaks who are, maybe not freaks is the right word, but
freaks,
there are a lot
of,
they're absolute freaks who are like, I need big bad machine to do my games and to play Astro Bot at 500 frames per second, which is probably not gonna be a thing. But I think like, you brought it up like. Outlaws not performing the best, like certainly to have that experience on a home console will feel good. I think there will be a game that is demonstrably so much improved that will probably be a more compelling argument when that finally hits. Who knows what game that is, but there's going to be something out there that's like, oh my God, look at what this thing's doing.
Yeah, I think that game, whether this is that game visually or just perceptually in terms of what people want, the game is GTA 6, like because it's going to be just the way Rockstar does. Point. The way Rockstar does things, it's going to be so long before a PC version of that game comes out because they know that they can sell it to you on console and then sell it to you again on PC. But there's going to be a good, 6 months or a year at least, where consoles are the only place you're going to be able to play that game. And like I think, and that is still a ways off. That game could be up to like a year away. But I think at some point, a lot of people are going to run up against that GTA wall and go like, well, I want to play this. This is like a once in a decade game. I want to play this in the best possible way. So like I could see that game being the one that moves some of these.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I get
that will be interesting, right? Because then you have a console that has locked hardware, right? From now, looking forward, if it even does come out in a year, It's not not that it won't improve that experience, but it's just interesting that like that is just the game you play with these step up consoles. You were just locking hardware in a way that there's no real, tangible kind of aside from like, developer education, right? And just having, being more resourceful and able to get more out of the hardware in that sort of, time that passes since it comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think there will be something, and it's probably GTA 6 where it's like, all right, this is probably the one that's going to get me to do it. And does it still cost $700 when that comes out? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
We shall see. But who knows what it costs? I don't know what it costs to make. I mean, like looking at this really just makes me wonder what the future of console pricing is. Because this got me clicking around a little bit, and this really flew under the radar. But they announced some new Xbox SKUs back at not E3, like around Summer Game Fest, like the like there's a 1 terabyte Series S and stuff. One of those was a 2 terabyte Series X. That thing is $599. Like it is a limited edition. It's that like kind of, I don't know, Cosmos edition. It was the Xbox that's got the kind of like star pattern on it. You know what I'm talking about? You probably saw that thing.
Sure.
But that's a 2 terabyte Series X, and it is $599. That thing is only $100 cheaper than this. And that is the same base console with double the storage. So, like, there just feels like there's probably some price creep going on in general around console hardware. And I wonder what this portends for the next actual generation, which by some accounts may not be as far off as we think it is.
I think the problem you're going to run into, if this is in fact the new normal and just where things are going cost-wise, is that as much as the numbers might be inflating for the manufacturers and the acquisition of parts and all that other stuff, the numbers have not necessarily gone up for the people who are buying these consoles.
Oh, yeah, yes,
like,
that's the problem.
This is a luxury item for a lot of people, and even though inflation is hitting everything to some degree, unless you can make the people who buy them, their numbers go up, that is going to be a problem running into this and the next generation.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the story of the last 45 to 50 years, right?
Yeah.
Is that wages have not kept up with cost of living. So that is going to continue to be a problem with this stuff.
And if Nintendo comes in with a new Switch that's like $300 and, obviously isn't going to do the things that a PS5 Pro is doing by any stretch, probably won't even do the things a PS5 is doing, that won't matter to a lot of people because that's the $300 console and it got Nintendo on it.
Yep, for sure. Anyway, I mean, to use Bakalar's wording, I am such a freak, I guess, because I will definitely get this thing on day one, but it's my job to get this thing and see what it does.
One of us has to.
Like we need to know how this thing works. But at the same time, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is one of the games confirmed to get an enhanced mode, and that's another game that still doesn't have a PC port, and looking at Final Fantasy 16 probably won't for a while. So if you want the best version of that game, this is going to be the only way to get that as well. So it is a lot of money for sure. And it is absolutely like less urgent than the PS4 Pro was in terms of the TVs that are out there.
It's a number that has forced a lot of my normie friends to like, it triggered them where they were like, what, how did this happen? There's certain things that penetrate that audience where like very, who are just, very casual, game players or whatever it is. Things like this, they are alerted, they are activated. And this, for whatever reason, like Black Myth Wukong also permeated them. I don't know, the algorithm, maybe there's a lot of marketing money behind that game. I don't know what, but it got to the normies. The normies heard about it, and I have an anecdotal sort of like barometer that the second I start getting questions about that game, I knew like, oh, it has reached another level of awareness. And obviously you make a headline that says, hey, that PS5 Pro is $700.
Yeah.
That's an easy thing to trigger someone with.
Yes, for sure. So they weren't there in 1992 though. I knew somebody that got a 3DO on launch day. And that,
oh God!
And that thing was,
what was that? Over $1,000 bucks, right?
That thing was $700 in 1991 or $92.
Oh my God!
Right.
Oh my God!
Yes.
There's a few reasons why that thing didn't pan out.
Yeah. Well, case in point, like cheaper 3DOs started coming out fairly rapidly.
I would think they would have to.
Still didn't move the needle.
No.
But you're right, Alex. Like Nintendo must see this stuff and just be like licking their lips. You know,
They're just like, that's not the game we're playing. That's not
Exactly.
the thing we're
Well,
doing.
I mean, there has got to be a shift in the business, like for everything from Concord to like other $200 million games to the response to Astro Bot to the Nintendo's continued success. Like there's got to be a recentering of the way development is done and the kinds of scope for the projects that they're pursuing and the resources they're putting into it and the sustainability of the practices. Making cutting edge graphics. Like I can't believe we've gotten to the point where hardware has outpaced our like fiscal ability to develop for the hardware. Like it was like what the hardware could do was the gate on how games looked for the entire history of video games until about 5 years ago.
Right.
5 to 10 years ago, and now it's how can we afford to pay enough people to make games that look like this? It's got to find some new equilibrium, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has not found it yet.
Like I really hope we're not destined for some kind of new crash of some kind. But anyway, next story. Speaking of evolving business and labor practices, we go now to our labor relations correspondent, Alex Navarro.
Yes. So we've talked a little bit about the SAG-AFTRA strike and the specific publishers that they are currently striking against in search of a new deal. One of those is no longer on the list. The Tencent-owned developer Lightspeed LA has signed basically signed the agreement, an agreement, so that they are no longer striking against them.
So this is the first one of the like named companies, right? That has agreed.
Because there's like 8 companies, I think, in that group, or something to that effect. And this is the first one that has struck a deal with them. And the big thing is that a lot of this was built around AI protections and stuff like that, and it sounds like they basically got what they wanted in this deal.
I didn't know a ton about Lightspeed. Like I know Troy Baker is involved as like performance director. Like are they just a traditional development studio, or is this something geared more toward performance capture? Like it sounds like they've got a lot of performance capture facilities going.
Yeah, like a lot of other companies that have their own performance capture facilities, it seems like this is a big chunk of their business, is that they are also probably letting other people come in and use those studio spaces and, helping to direct various motion capture sessions.
Okay, so this is a company that may actually touch a decent number of games besides their own then?
Yeah. And I also imagine that it does seem like there is it's a games company. They don't say that specifically they are just the developer of video games. It seems like they have multiple disciplines here, but the bigger thing was that like a Tencent company signing this agreement maybe puts a little bit of pressure on some of these other companies because, Tencent is every big a conglomerate as like, an EA or an Activision or Microsoft or whatever. And I can't imagine that if other studios start peeling off that any of these people are going to have a leg to stand on for very long. It seems like really this is just about AI protection stuff, and the things that the union are asking for are not even that extreme as far as like wanting those protections.
Sure. All right. Well, some movement there. I think the strike started, like a month and a half ago.
Like a month and a half ago at most. Yeah.
Sometime in August.
So we're like nowhere near this like showing up in shipping games yet.
Not yet.
In terms of the trickle down effects of that work stopping, but hopefully this will get sewn up sooner than later so that those effects are not felt too severely.
I think at some point they will realize this is not going to do them a whole lot of good to dig their heels in on this.
Yeah. Yes, the front seems pretty united on this one, for good reason. All right, next story here. How do y'all feel about Destiny these days?
I'm aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's something.
That's the extent of my relationship with that game.
My understanding was the last big thing they did was reasonably well received.
Yeah, that was also my understanding. I famously was quite into Destiny for a long time, but I've not played it in 2 or 3 years. How do you feel about Destiny as a sort of bellwether for where Bungie is going in the wake of their massive layoffs and restructuring?
I guess I have to treat it as a significant one because it's not like there's really much other Bungie stuff going on. I mean, I guess there's Marathon.
Right. That's it.
That's kind of it, right?
That's it. Like coming out of those layoffs, that's exactly what they said. They are doubling down on Destiny and Marathon. Like their other project was peeled off and is being spun out under its own studio in PlayStation Studios. But Destiny just turned 10 like days ago.
Oh man! What?
2 days. 2 days ago, at the time of this recording, September 9th was the 10th anniversary of the launch of Destiny.
I can't do this. I can't live this way.
Why is that hitting so hard?
I mean,
it doesn't feel that old.
Like
That's why.
I've said it many times. Like the PS4 still feels like a new console to me. That still feels like a next gen console.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe this is just. But is this just part of like Bakalar's greater aging theory? Is everybody just stuck in their roughly 33-year-old time frame forever?
I think so. I mean, it just devalues a decade in such a way that I'm just not comfortable with, you know?
I know that feeling. But anyway, Bungie decided to mark the 10th anniversary of Destiny and also, again, follow up these like pretty massive layoffs a few weeks ago with a big like announcement of like, hey, here's where Destiny is going. And
where is it going?
Where it's going is they are increasing the cadence of updates like dramatically. They are moving to, they've been doing one paid expansion a year. They are now moving to two actual expansions a year, and also, I mean, their wording is 2 expansions per year, 4 major updates of free content every year. So they're going to be putting out a lot more stuff in Destiny soon, which, again, really tracks with what they've said about their sort of post-restructuring roadmap, goals, whatever you want to call it.
So at this point, Destiny is definitively just the Destiny platform. Destiny 2 is. Like, there's not really any indication they would ever make a third one of these, right?
Yeah, like, I didn't even wade into the rumors coming out in the wake of those layoffs because, like, the console wars are such these days that, like, you can't really trust much that you read out there about, you know, but there was, like, scuttlebutt, like, oh, they were working on Destiny 3 until Sony killed it type stuff. I highly doubt that is the case, but, like, even if that were true, like, in the wake of that stuff, I cannot imagine a Destiny 3, an actual like sequel happening.
It wouldn't be the smart, prudent move on their part, I don't think, to do that.
Right, unless this stuff just does gangbusters, you know, if they really bring it back to some position of prominence where that feels warranted, then maybe. Like the stuff they're talking about sounds more interesting than what they have done in a while, though. We are actively prototyping non-linear campaigns, exploration experiences similar to the Dreaming City or Metroidvanias.
Okay.
And even more unusual formats like roguelikes or survival shooters. Each expansion will present a new opportunity to try something different. Like that actually sounds kind of interesting to me. Like I fully tapped out of the just kind of story based, you know, one expansion after another thing they were doing. But if they actually start turning it into like different things from time to time, like they're saying their first expansion that's coming next year. So this starts summer next year. So we're a full year out from this new plan kicking off. They're saying that first expansion is going to be like a non-linear thing, kind of open world-ish. Like it's just going to be like, hey, we get you in with your first mission, and then it's like, hey, here's a bunch of objectives. Like you could go do this mission next, or you could go do that one. You know, like you can roam around this new space and just do the stuff at your leisure. So like revitalizing that game structurally is kind of the only thing I could have heard that would have made me interested in more of it.
Well, they have to, because the current content has basically overlapped itself multiple times now, right? Like in terms of like the story stuff and just sort of like the way these campaigns have been. I got the sense that it felt like at a certain point they were just trying to reinvent the same shit that they had been doing. I don't mean shit as in like it's bad, but I mean just like literally the same material that they had already done and trying to make it into stuff that was new.
Yeah, I can't speak to the story stuff, but mechanically, that's very much how it felt. By the time I tapped out, it was just like, okay, what's the new seasonal event this season? Like, what are the 3 new materials I need to chase? Like, what is the latest rework of the armor or weapon system? Like, yes, it very much just felt like kind of running a treadmill from expansion one to the next.
Is this them trying to learn a lesson from Fortnite?
I don't know. Maybe.
In the sort of like, hey, we're doing a thing that's a new thing in our game that is not just the game you normally play, but here it is. I mean, there's less flossing in John Cena, but at the same time, it feels like maybe that's something they were trying to learn from another successful live service game.
Yeah, I think the calculus is like, is your player base at a spot where you can start to have this cadence of content to really like make it its own sustainable entity, right? And maybe that's the thinking. I don't know how many people are playing Destiny, but certainly there must be the thinking that this is what they can get away with doing and possibly either be okay with their current player base and have that be a long-term, positive sort of like revenue thing, or maybe appeal to newer players. But like certainly I would imagine that is their thinking of like, well, Destiny is now at this level and we can manipulated into this thing, and maybe it is taking a couple cues from Fortnite, but like it seems like that is probably the play. And obviously at the cost of like jobs, right, where they make that decision to say, okay, this is where we need to be focused on now.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, with Destiny, I have to imagine the player base is at least big enough at this point that the idea of getting out there and saying we're still doing new content for this thing does not raise any heckles at Sony, because they just had this spectacular flameout with Concord, and there's absolutely no way they would let Bungie get out there and be like, yes, we're making a bunch of new things for Destiny, if they did not feel reasonably confident that enough people would buy that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So they are at least in a good position where they don't have to establish themselves. They have an existing player base, and there's enough content like swirling around there that they can just keep building off of. I don't know if that's going to be the case forever. But again, if they're talking about doing new content, that means they are probably in an at least okay position, because otherwise they would be in maintenance mode right now.
Yeah. Yes, and that was an open question, because this last expansion kind of wrapped up their current storyline. If the powers that be were going to quite quietly sunset Destiny, this would have been the time to do it, because they just kind of wrapped everything up. But instead, it sounds like they're kicking off a whole new kind of storyline. There's one other thing in here that caught my attention. We want to return the mystery and wonder that was woven into the fabric of early Destiny, when the story felt ripe with possibilities and an epic sense of exploration and discovery. That is my favorite era of Destiny.
Dinklage is coming back. That's what that means.
I loved Destiny when I didn't know the names of the NPCs. The quest givers were just like weird people I ran up to turn stuff in. There was a vagueness, there was like a nebulous, mysterious quality to early Destiny that I feel like they lost as they made the storytelling a lot more concrete and kind of tangible and a bit more mainstream over time. So I'm really curious to see what all of this means. Like new mechanics and a kind of like a more mysterious tone to everything might be the one thing they could have said to get me back in here. But anyway, like we said at the top, this is at least your indication of what greater Bungie is probably going to be spending its time on, aside from Marathon, for the foreseeable future. So there you go.
All right.
Next story. They have put a date on Balatro Mobile.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
It's soon. It is like 2 weeks soon.
We have to stop this.
Why?
Because if this thing breaks containment of the PC and consoles and it gets onto mobile phones, the degree of worldwide productivity drain will be ruinous to the current, admittedly very fraught already economy and just general functionality of humanity. It cannot be allowed to go that wide, because it will destroy the fabric of what we have.
The cat's out of the bag, buddy.
I know. I've lost this battle already.
There's no going back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
No. Well, we can't go back to the island, Jack.
We've got 15 days because it's coming out on September 26th, iOS and Android.
Yeah, look at us getting day one.
I'm pretty excited about this.
I'm excited. So I've played a lot on Steam Deck since it came out, and I always was like, oh, obviously, it's like this feels
great
good,
on Steam Deck,
tapping away and doing the thing. But I don't know. Have they said it's gonna have like a one hand mode?
I don't think they. So this was just revealed in a tweet, as far as I know.
Yeah.
The dates. I mean,
the pretty crazy video attached.
They had said like 6 months ago that they were working on a mobile version. I don't know if they've said a lot about the interface.
I would love a one hand mode. I think
see it.
If you can do that, you have basically won. Like that is, if you can make it work well, yeah.
If it's just a port, I think even on, the phone screens are big enough, but like there is a lot of text. There is like a lot of stuff that. Yeah,
there's little things you have to drag around on a screen that is the size of a telephone. That there is a little bit of hinkiness there. If you can't just do a straight port, but I do think the developer seems like they are more than together enough and very understanding of what is necessary to get that thing working well on mobile.
Yeah,
certainly.
I think they would probably have to overhaul the interface for vertical though, because like you can't. Balatro is a 16:9 game on everything right now. Like it's a widescreen TV shaped game, and you can't really I mean, maybe you can. I don't think I can play one-handed with the phone sideways. So they would probably have to significantly rework the interface to make that work.
Right. That's what I was saying. Like, I realized that would be a pretty big lift to, like, you know, redo that.
Yeah.
But that would be cool. Yeah. That would be, like, really, I just see myself just in the way of, like, we just talked about, like, having that on that third monitor, having that to your side, and, you know, just being able to pick it up. I do think that's, like, the next, like, unlockable for this sort of game. That would bring it for me to a next level where I'm like, we always knew this day was going to come, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We knew Balatro on mobile was.
Did we? I mean,
I knew it was coming.
We did. I mean, like, in literal terms, yes, we do that because the developer said so. But the thing I was going to say though is that the last one of these that I desperately wanted was Into the Breach, which to date has still never come out of that fucking Netflix deal. Like you have to have an active Netflix subscription to play Into the Breach on iOS, which is dog shit.
That really puts an onion in the ointment.
Right. And like FTL was my last one of these before Into the Breach that I wanted and have on iPad, and that's the best place to play it, I think. But you know, like there was always the potential that some bullshit like the Netflix thing was going to happen with this game. So I'm very happy that this is panning out the way it looks like it's going to, and I think it's already got a store page up on the App Store. It's going to be $10 from the looks of things. So, there will also,
here we go. Buckle up.
Yeah, there will also be an Apple Arcade version coming, which they're referring to as Balatro Plus. But a bunch of Apple Arcade games get names of that nature. Like Monster Train just came out under the name Monster Train Plus as well. So I don't know that the plus actually denotes much in the case of Balatro.
Just like a way to distinct it from something else. Yeah.
I mean, I think the reason for that is that I think is that the games you get on Apple Arcade have no like microtransactions. Like they strip all the bullshit out that a free or like lightly paid version might have. Like it's kind of just like a guarantee that like, hey, you're paying monthly to play this. Like you're not going to have to pay any more inside the game. I doubt it's going to have custom content or anything like that.
Why do I have a very vivid memory of thinking Apple Arcade was going away?
I don't know, but I feel like I also thought that at some point, and it very much has not.
Am I crazy, or like did I read something that was like, hey, we're sunsetting Apple Arcade?
Something with Apple Arcade may have changed, but I don't think it was ever going away. But now that you're saying it, I feel like I can't shake it either.
What's happening?
Yeah, I don't know where I might have gotten that idea, or like if not like being shut down, at least being sort of de-emphasized. Going into some kind of maintenance mode. But it's it's getting new games kind of constantly. Like I said, Monster Train. Let's see, NBA 2K25 Arcade Edition. Like there are games coming out on Apple Arcade pretty steadily. I think Apple does the same thing all these service companies do now, where they bundle all their stuff into one like $20 a month thing.
Right.
And so I don't know how Apple Arcade does on its own, but I could definitely see it largely being a value add for, I think Apple One is the name of their all-in-one thing. Anyway, very excited.
It's coming.
Yes, I don't have a Steam Deck, so I'm very excited to sit on the couch and play Balatro in my lap finally.
Yeah. Should get a Steam Deck. They're pretty good.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
There will be a refresh of that thing at some point. I can understand waiting, but you at some point you should get one.
Also, I rarely leave the house, so it's
me too.
Not a lot of
doesn't
demand.
stop me from using it.
Yeah, I use it way more than I thought I would in the home. Yeah.
Do you stream to it, or do you just playing local games on it, or do you actually stream?
I just play local.
I'm playing local.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Last story here. Konami, makers of fine video games. Once again. They put out when did the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 was late last year, I believe, right?
I think that's correct.
You probably could have inferred from the name of that thing that there would be a Volume 2 at some point, but also stranger things have happened than them calling something Volume 1 and then never making another one. But the producer of that game has now officially said that a Volume 2 is coming. He has very conspicuously not said what games are going to be in it.
All right, what was in Volume 1?
It was 1 through 3.
1 through 3,
yes,
okay.
Yeah, and so his actual quote here about what's going to be in the new one, we had HD ports of Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, or sorry, not really for 1, but for the other 2. He's referring to what they could put into that Master Collection. Those games have gotten ported all over the place. But most of the titles released after those don't have a pre-existing HD port we could use. Some are in HD, but those would all be really big titles. That comes with its own set of issues. So with all these factors considered with the lineup, anything along the lines of what's in it or questions like how long will it be in development, when will it be out, it's going to be a little while before we can get a clear picture. But when we do, we'll let you know here. But
okay.
The elephant in the room.
It's a little vague in a way that's unusual, I think.
It is just the going on 16-year elephant in the room now of, is Metal Gear Solid 4 ever going to come to another console ever?
What would be preventing that, do you think?
I don't know. Like I feel like the internet's go-to excuse for ports that feel like they should happen and never do is like, oh, spaghetti code. Like, it's just, the code is so complex they can't figure out how to port it to anything else or something like that. Or some rights thing, but the rights would not be a problem here. But
right.
Like MGS4 was a huge game that, like, again, very conspicuously has never come out on anything else but the PS3. So it's quite literally the next numbered game in the series here.
Yeah. And like, a reasonably it's not like it's like such an outlier or such a shitty game that no one wants it. No. Like, it's a reasonably well-liked one of these.
GiantBomb.com called it a 5-star game and the best reason to own a PS3 so far. I can tell you.
That was the bundle I bought
having written
for the PS3.
Having written those words. Anyway, yeah, like, it's just, I mean, maybe this is an old head thing. But
I mean, is it the reason that he was saying about it being too large of a game?
Well, I mean, it is a big game, but like that was it was a big game in 2008. I think like these days that is not at all insurmountable. I don't know. Like, it's so hard to read between the lines and know what is going on with that game.
Did they sign a weird deal with Sony? Did they do something that maybe they have had a very hard time extricating themselves from because maybe some kind of agreement is more ironclad than they would like?
I guess it's possible, but like I have to assume.
I'm just asking questions here, folks.
Like, but then what's going in it?
Like, I have to assume any deal that would get made would have some kind of termination date. Like,
you would think.
It feels impossible to think that it's still under those kinds of restrictions. I don't know. It's just a strange situation because like Metal Gear is such a hallowed series. All those other games have been ported left and right.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
We know how notoriously weird the PS3 was in terms of coding and in terms of design and all that stuff. Like, it was a hard console to develop for. I have no doubt that there would be some challenges involved in making that thing run on other hardware. But I cannot imagine a single one of those challenges still being such a challenge that it could not happen now.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be the case that, like, it's not impossible to port, but it would be enough of an effort that Konami has just not wanted to put the resources in.
Right.
And we are getting to the point now where PS3 emulation is actually fairly feasible.
Yeah, it seems like people have figured out some of the problems with that hardware.
Yeah, so maybe they just decide to emulate now that we can just kind of brute force that. Anyway, it would really be nice to see MGS4 be freed from the PS3 and put out on modern stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I think it absolutely deserves it. Just it's same treatment as all the other games.
Yeah. Yes. The true 2008 game of the year.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. That is your news update for this week. You guys want to read a couple of emails? Jeff Bakalar, do you have time to entertain an email or two?
I would love to.
All right.
Let's do it.
I like that, spirits.
Yeah.
Podcast at nextlander.com, I think, is the email address, right? I set that up and then I can't remember.
Yes, it is.
Yes. I don't say it every week, so it's not embedded in the noggin. All right. Let's do 2 or 3 here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Travis and Fargo, frequent emailer. With the announcement of Concord being shut down and pulled from digital store shelves, actually, can I let me suspend the reading of this email briefly. Have you guys turned your PS5s on in the last 2 days?
I turned mine on today.
Did you get that Concord notice about them removing it from your account?
No, I didn't see that. No.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I never
I probably have a message that I haven't seen, but
it was. I think it showed up as a system message, but I feel like it butted into whatever I was doing when it popped up. But it is a full on. They're running a full on full screen message, letting you know they have removed the game from your account.
That's a little bonkers.
Which is crazy to me because they didn't have to do that because the servers don't work, and that's a game that can't get past the title screen without working servers.
Yeah.
So there was not a lot of risk, or at least nothing I can think of, to just leaving the game as it was. And just keeping the servers down, so you can play it, but they quite literally have like unlicensed the game from everyone's accounts. Like, it is no longer downloadable in any way. Like, it's like it doesn't exist anymore. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's probably some kind of like proactive measure to,
because not everyone got the note, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Though considering the number of sales we're talking about, I feel like the number of people who did buy that game, almost every single one of them would have gotten the note.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, like there have been games in the past that like went down in terms of their online play. Like, they became no longer playable, but those were typically old games that nobody was playing anyway. Obviously, this game was less than 2 weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a crazy situation to see it literally like evaporate like it never existed.
If you bought a hard copy of it, what do you do?
Their official line is good. Contact the retailer you bought it from, and they will refund you. And I have to assume they have worked with all their official retail partners and said, hey, you need to refund this game. We will do whatever we need to do to help you do that.
Unreal.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. The email with the announcement of Concord being shut down, I'd like to know if you could travel back in time and Ghosts of Christmas Past to the development team for the game, what would you have told them that could have possibly saved it and made it successful?
Oh boy.
If I had this answer, I would be a successful video game executive.
Well, would you? Because I don't know. It seems like a lot of the ones who rise the ranks are not making the best decisions.
Yeah, you might be right. I feel like the first thing I would say to them is you cannot go into this with the assumed ability to create the same level of attachment to the characters that you did with that they did with Overwatch.
Sure.
That was a lightning in a bottle moment. That was suddenly these new characters exist and suddenly everyone likes them. It's very weird. That does not happen very often. For that to happen, you need a certain amount of magic and luck, and I don't know that you have that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually on the same page with you, because I feel like a lot of people would have said, hey, make it free to play. Like, and that is a valid answer.
That would be my second point.
That absolutely is a valid strategy to take here, but I'm actually with you. Like, the first thing I thought of that I would say is, hey, don't do the Guardians of the Galaxy thing. Like, do not try to ape Marvel. And like,
you are so behind the curve on this when you do this.
And it's not like I knew in 2018 or 19 when this game really got going that the Marvel... it's not a Marvel crash, but like the Marvel fortunes have fallen a bit.
Look,
sure.
There's
that
definitely
actual Guardians of the Galaxy game, the one that is literally based on the property, a very good game by the way, sold like shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, there's some fatigue with that style and presentation these days. Like, I actually think that might have been my first advice, would be like, hey, like, carve out a unique like identity for this game. Because do you remember when they unveiled this game and it was just a logo and like the inside of a spaceship?
Yeah.
Like, and kind of nothing else. And it looked rad. Like, the graphic design in that game is really good. Like, the color palette, the real kind of 70s sci-fi motif. I was like, okay, I don't even know what kind of game that is, but I'm curious to see more because that looks cool.
And then the game opened its mouth.
Right.
Everyone started talking.
And then they showed the characters and I was like, oh, okay, this is...
Oh, no.
This is a problem.
This is just like a Joss Whedon shooter then, I guess. You know what I mean? Like if it had been a very different tone that kind of was more consistent with what I felt like that initial unveil was in terms of like the vibe of the whole thing, I think it could have done better. Not necessarily that it would have saved it, but like I certainly would have found it more interesting.
Perhaps we're discrediting the idea that like it's kind of amazing this game did all these things wrong. Like, that is just as hard to do.
They definitely made some decisions early on that it seems like they were not able to ever back out of, and I think those decisions may have been the ones that were most ruinous.
I will still always be endlessly surprised at the whiplash in which Sony sort of like clapped back at this game.
This has never happened on this scale this fast.
Yeah. This seemed surgical in a way that is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
So I've seen, I didn't think of this myself, but I saw this possibility floated in light of them like removing it from people's accounts where it literally is not even like in the database anymore.
Yeah.
What if this turns out to be one of those like David Zaslav, Warner Brothers, like we have removed these movies from our service style tax write-off situations?
Oh, fuck.
I don't know if that's a thing in video games.
You're saying Hollywood accounting has now reached...
But here's the thing. There's no reason why the rules that say that a fully finished fucking Warner Brothers Coyote versus Acme movie getting deleted and turned into a tax write-off. There's no law that I'm aware of that says a video game can't take advantage of the same shit.
Yeah, I have no idea if that's the fate of this thing, but I do
also release Coyote versus Acme now. God damn it.
Yeah, man, I really want to see that.
I hate how good that sounds.
I really want to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't know, but my soul is telling me that this might actually be at the root of this thing.
Yeah,
I just hate how easy that is to believe.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if that is feasible in terms of, whatever ins and outs are required, but like I can say this, if it is logistically possible to do and it will financially benefit the company more than putting more money into it to make it free to play and give it another shot, I absolutely believe that's what they will do.
I believe that's what they will do.
But again, zero idea if that's even feasible or not.
I mean this sincerely. If that is what it turns out to be, that you just basically shit can people's minimum 6 years, if not actual 8 years of work in a week for a tax write-off, every one of those people should be pilloried. Like literally put in stocks and tomatoes hucked at them.
Yeah. Weird stuff. Did you guys play any more after the announcement, but before the shutdown? Did you?
I did.
No.
I played a couple times after the announcement, and it was just fucking sad and listless in there, man. Like, it was not a good scene.
I played the night before, like probably less than, maybe about 12, 14 hours before the shutdown. Took a long time to find a match. A very long time.
I think people realize that if they weren't committed to the killing myself over and over again to get myself to level 100, there was just not much there for them.
Oh, you know what? Because I'm me, the reason I did that was to go in. I got the 5 or 6 very easy trophies to get in 30 minutes. I mean, also there was just a little sense of like, I should play a little bit more of this. This game's not bad.
It isn't. It was okay. It was very okay.
But that reminds me, now that we're talking about the game having been delisted and everything, are those trophies still even up?
Oh, wow. Good question.
I'm actually trying to think, I don't use PlayStation's online account stuff all that much. What is the fastest way to check my trophies from here?
I don't know. I never look.
Yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves for just a second and I will find out.
Yeah,
all right.
This is a uniquely bred situation.
Yeah, you got to figure this out, but it would be amazing, genuinely amazing.
If it's all like a database, right? It's all like connected.
Yeah, it should be.
If all those entries don't exist anymore, right?
Then what do we have?
Presumably, every time your trophies just call home, right, to like some mothership.
You would think so. But again, if this is the case, that the trophies are now hidden and you don't actually get any of that stuff, there were people, again, who leveled themselves up to level 100 by killing themselves in matches over and over again, presumably to get a trophy.
Yep.
You spend an entire week of your life doing that.
Yeah,
that I can make peace with.
People were chasing that platinum very hard. Well, this link to my trophies is broken.
There used to be a third-party site.
Yeah,
there are introduced.
Yeah.
They're ones that still work well.
My account would not be connected to those, but I could probably see if anybody still has. Well, those pull data and then kind of store it, so they might be showing like stale trophies that don't actually exist anymore.
I just realized I have never actually looked at my trophy account on PlayStation. I don't think I care ever.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how to get there.
I know how to get there. I just don't.
I use the library once in a while. Like I use the library to start downloads from the web.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't expose the trophies there. I really just want to know if all those people that put those hours and hours in trying to get that platinum, did they just get completely shafted? Did those trophies just disappear for them?
I feel like the trophies have to still be there on some level.
All right, through the magic of editing, I can tell you I have now just gone to my console to check, and those trophies are in fact still there. The game's still in the list.
Okay.
Like the unlock times are still there, so people who went nuts getting that platinum, I assume some people must have gotten it.
For now,
I would think so,
do we know for a fact? Because I think some of those trophies were like get every character to level 50, or maybe it was every character to level 10 and level 50 overall or something. Anyway, it was a lot of Concord.
Yeah, I have to imagine that I in a week, I bet you could not necessarily get them all, but I bet they could at least get that level 101.
Yeah. Anyway, those trophies will live on even if the game is not currently playable and may never be again.
There is evidence that it existed, at least.
Yes. Time will tell. Question from Zach in Minnesota. It's addressed to Vinny, but I believe any parent will do here. So, Bakalar, I'm going to kick it to you.
Oh, boy. Hot seat. Okay.
It's our first child. He's a boy, and going number 1 was easy as can be, but we're months in now, and he refuses to go number 2 on the potty. Help.
Well, presumably the child is shitting. We're
just not on the potty.
Just not on the potty.
Not where they're supposed to.
Look, there could not be a worse person to speak to this. Because
you never shit.
Because my son has never shit. No,
he's the next evolution of human life.
Yeah, exactly. He has somehow found another use for it. His body has. Mm-hmm. No, I'm the worst person to ask just because, he's 9. Since he's 2.5, this dude has been perfectly potty trained,
regular,
and not by me. And not by me.
Oh.
This happened at daycare.
Oh, wow.
Something happened. I don't know if it was part of the service. I don't know what it was, but it was
Didn't read the fine print, huh?
I don't know. Hey, I'm not looking for a refund because he literally overnight was perfectly fine with doing it. I can't speak to it. I don't know. I certainly have friends who are dealing with similar issues, and I think, the thing I always hear is that when they are ready, they are ready.
Yes.
And there is a lot that kids go through, developmentally speaking, where they kind of like shitting themselves.
Okay.
They do.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I think it's all of them.
Myself, I can't quite attest to that, but sure.
I look, when do you remember being potty trained?
No,
I don't remember.
Well,
right?
Okay.
Okay. Enlighten us.
Here's what it is. I don't remember being potty trained, but I do remember something my mom did to help me along. And this is not disgusting or anything. So just, this is actually kind of a cute story.
She gave you a coffee and a cigarette, and before you knew it.
Yeah, just right now I'm hopelessly nicotine addicted. No, it's so my mom would occasionally, my mom is a little bit of an amateur artist, and she liked to, paint and draw things. Mm-hmm. And she did on a couple of occasions, she drew children's books for me.
Oh,
and one of them was a book about potty training called Ernie Goes to the Bathroom, involving the Sesame Street character, because I loved Sesame Street at that age.
Right.
And that was something that I at least remember that being a thing that was okay, I'm learning something here.
You still have these books?
My mom, I think, still has a copy of it somewhere.
Man,
yeah.
That is custom children's books. That is a hell of an artifact from one's childhood.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, they were short, to be clear. These are a few pages, but it was for a kid who's 2 or 3 years old, it's okay, this is amazing.
It is amazing. Oh my God, you're so lucky to have that. My maternal grandfather made me custom comics all the time.
Damn. Oh, that's awesome.
He would also repurpose existing comics and write over them and do a lot of X-Acto knifing.
We're talking like newspaper, 4-panel type comics.
And he would add in his own characters and just customize them around me and my brother. But that's I love that. And I just got them all, and I want to make I want to do something with them. I have to but Alex, you definitely should get your hands on those when you can.
Oh, I know.
Awesome.
She has it in her collection of stuff. I'm sure I will find it at some point.
Yeah. But back to the pooping. Yeah. I mean, I really do think when a kid's ready, they're ready. It's really tough to brute force that stuff. Eventually it just sort of happens is what I gather. I wish I had more helpful direct advice and strategies I could share, but when it's time, it's time.
Yeah.
Maybe
that makes sense.
Maybe draw your son a children's book.
There you go.
All right. This is probably our last email
from
Walter. In the somewhat unfairly maligned Link the Faces of Evil for the CDI, when Link receives the Power Glove, an animation plays where what looks like a green rubber glove manifests. Link proceeds to put it on his right hand. This glove has the power to destroy boulders, barriers, and even tougher enemies in one blow. What I'm asking is, do you think it's possible that David Lynch has ever played Link the Faces of Evil?
I'd say they're not that high, but never say never. I mean, I know he at least knows what Quake is because he was hanging out with Trent Reznor at one point.
That's right. I forgot that photo surfaced recently.
Yeah, I think it was when we were doing our Watchcast stuff
of young-ish Lynch hanging out with young-ish Trent Reznor while he was doing the Quake music. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
in the studio.
They got to be 20, 30 years apart, though, right? Maybe 20.
I don't know.
David Lynch is in his late 70s,
right? Trent
He's
Reznor's
the same
59.
age as my mother. That's right. I looked this up. He's 78, I believe.
Okay, yeah. You nailed it. Trent Reznor is 59, so 19 years apart.
Yeah, I feel good that there exists a scenario where this can be true.
Yes.
I like that he is aware. I mean, that makes me feel good.
That does seem awfully specific.
Yeah.
Do we know if did Lynch ever play anything that we know of?
I don't think... I'm not aware of David Lynch specifically ever sitting down and playing a video game. There are no stories that I've heard about that, though I don't consider it out of the realm of possibility that he would have sat down and played something, oh, that's great, oh, that's fantastic, like at some point doing that.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird, though, that we are approaching a cutoff point where there just will not be people like that anymore, where we wonder...
That have not played video games?
Right, where you're just sort of like, oh, I wonder if, it's just not going to be a thing anymore.
Yeah, I think we've already kind of crossed the threshold where it's like most adults can be considered to at least know about video games if not having played them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that with Watchcast a lot lately. Like all the people making video game adaptations are people that grew up with them now, right?
Yeah, not people that are just assumed they're all like Pac-Man.
Right.
Yep. Right. Yep. What kind of Pac-Man is this?
Yeah, this is the wrong kind of Pac-Man. I'm not into this Pac-Man. The fuck kind of Pac-Man has a sword in it?
Alrighty. That's going to do it for the emails. Podcast@nextlander.com is the address to send them to. We're going to wrap things up here. Alex Navarro, it occurs to me that I didn't square with you before this podcast if you would mind reading our patrons. But we are going to thank our patrons. We thank everybody who supports us. Nextlander.com. If you want to find out how to keep this thing going, we could not do it without you. And an extra special thanks to our mysterious benefactor patrons, who Alex is going to read right now.
Indeed, our mysterious benefactors for this week are Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitous Rips, Bayfield, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre is headed to the beach, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, Bunny Fiend, Jad Rita, Statics, Fantasticasm89, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Teepkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Thank you to all for your support. It means the world to us. And on that note, Jeff Bakalar, thank you for being here.
Of
Plug
course,
your stuff.
This so much fun hanging out.
Yeah,
my pleasure being here.
Have we podcasted before? Probably at some point, but I can't remember.
No way.
We're probably on an E3 couch together at some point or something.
But does that count?
I don't know. It's kind of a different vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like your style.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I know we did our little giant bomb minute at the top, but anything you want to plug here as we send things off?
Nothing too specifically. Just come hang out on a live stream, say hi, whatever you need to do to come and join the fun. Please do that. And like I said, we've got hopefully some exciting stuff to talk about in the coming weeks. So stay tuned, and we'll let you know what's going on.
Top secret project. I'm excited.
I know. I regret it. It's Oh, hey, look. If it doesn't happen, then no one will know what it is. So
that's right.
I can feel good.
There you go.
Like under promise and over deliver. That's
the motto.
That's the motto. All right. Well, on that note, thank you again for being here, and thank you everyone for listening. This has been another Nextlander podcast. Let's see. We've got some more stuff going on this week. The Tetris Watchcast is up for patrons. The Wizard Watchcast is up for everyone, correct?
It is.
My God, I love the Wizard.
Do you?
I do.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Now, when was the last time you watched
Wizard.
it?
We did, I think, at CNET with you.
Yes, we did Wizard content because of the Power Glove thing.
Okay.
Look, I know what's wrong with that movie.
You're
several things.
You're saying you love the Wizard.
Yeah, I love it in the way that, like, I don't know, I love a bad thing.
Yes.
You have an unjustifiable nostalgia for it, similar to the way that I do.
Well, see, having only just rewatched it 2 weeks ago for the first time since I was a kid, it was like a fucking glass of cold water in the face.
I'm sure.
I genuinely thought that movie was great for my entire life until 2 weeks ago. And then I was like,
I think the only great thing in that movie, and I hope this doesn't ruin your watchcast.
Well, it's already up, so no.
Okay, good. I think the only feeling that, the only moment that is able to extract the same feeling I had in 1980, whatever it was, 9, I don't know, is the screens like revealing Mario 3.
Oh yeah,
like just that clip is all that really like comes together for me in that thing, and just how effective that was, mainlining directly into my brain.
Yeah,
everything else is
kind of garbage.
Abhorrent. With right, like it's an abuse of Beau Bridges and Christian Slater and Fred Savage and all these people in that movie.
Kind of a mess.
Unspeakable bullshit.
Yes. A very effective delivery mechanism for a very specific piece of marketing.
Exactly. And you know what? That's the commercial movie that I love.
Yep.
Fair enough.
That was the 80s, and it still is.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, those watchcasts are up for you. Alex, you played some Astro Bot today. People can go check that out on YouTube presently.
Well, maybe. I haven't put the archive up yet, but it'll be up. If it isn't up now, it will be soon.
Yes. I'll be getting back to Fallout tomorrow, Thursday afternoon, if you are hearing this before that. I don't think we didn't even mention at the top of the show, Vinny has been out on assignment. I believe he is en route back from said assignment right now. So he'll be back, and we'll all be back for the Friday stream per usual. I just keep saying this. I think we're going to play Satisfactory.
Okay.
We have not fully committed, but I think mostly because we're not all in one place right now. But I think we're going to play Satisfactory.
I will do nothing to stop that.
Let's play Satisfactory. What do you say?
All right.
Thanks again to everybody for listening. Thank you guys again for being here. This has been another Nextlander podcast. We'll see you next week.